Uh, Hello, everybody.
Hey,
I am Mark. I am an engineer at Dendron, and in this talk, I will be showcasing my personal journey through personal knowledge management and how Dendron has helped me set everything up. Although I have been taking notes all my life, the concept of PKM has been something very new to me, and I've been spending a lot of time the past a good chunk of this year absorbing a lot of information about PKM, and this is my current state at how I'm implementing things. So I'm definitely not like an expert in this, but I hope this talk can give other people who are just starting out a sense of self-efficacy towards building their own personal knowledge management system. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with how I found Dendron. I found Dendron out of random chance, to be honest. I thought it would be a good idea to learn how to roll out my own static website. So it was a good excuse to learn things like React, Gatsby, stuff like that. And at the end, I did kind of revive my personal website that I've been neglecting for almost 10 years. During the process, I learned about MDX, and I was intrigued by how people were just using Markdown to manage their content for publishing. And this got me kind of exciting because this meant I can start writing, just simply writing notes, and then can become like blog posts or anything really that I can publish in my website. And then that idea, then like all personal kind of portfolio websites go, I had to write an about page for me. And I'm not really, I really struggle with introducing myself to other people who I am. So I was really struggling how do I write this in like a concise and like a cool way. And I found out about the Now page, and it's basically just a page where you list things that are going on in your life right now, and I have a link. I can link it later, but someone started it and it has like a compilation of everyone's Now page that they submitted, and let me do other codes while checking out other people's Now page, and that's when I discovered the concept of digital gardens. And then a lot of searching later, I found a lot of tools, and then yeah, that's how I got to Dendron. I started using it. I actually felt like it was a project that I want to contribute for the first time in my life, and I did, and it felt great, and I kind of never looked back. I think that was like 7 or 8 months ago. Yeah, so that was how I found Dendron. That's when I started actually my digital garden. let's go over how my personal garden is set up. So I can't actually see what I'm sharing right now, but it should be sharing just my VS Code window. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So this is 2/3 of my actual screen. So about half the size of half of this VS Code window is on my left. So it's always mostly all my windows are arranged like this, and my VS Code is on the second 2/3 of my screen, so that my first column is here, which is actually I'm not sharing it, but it's in the center of my screen. So I'm looking at the first column, and it's in the middle. And here right now I have another note open here, but usually I just put a note graph and a preview, and sometimes I have a terminal here so that when I want to use it, I can just switch tabs and use the terminal. On the bottom, I have another editor group. You say, I think that's called editor group. I have that set up for any notes that I want to reference, but I don't actually write here. If I want to write, I bring it here, and whenever I'm taking notes, I'm writing here and then referencing whatever is here. That's my layout, and let's see. So on my main column where I actually write, I have usually I have a daily journal that is pinned, and I also have another note called buffer. This is a type of special note that I'm kind of experimenting using personally. This is not part of Dendron right now. It is a single note that that persists. I never delete it or move it to other places. It's just there, and I use it kind of like how you would use a scratch note in Dendron. It's sort of a similar analogy, except that you would create a lot of scratch notes for other needs, but for buffer notes, I just have it there pinned, and whenever I think I'm done writing, I just flush it out to an appropriate place. So for instance, if I were to be writing things about art or human anatomy, stuff like that, I would have that, and I would just copy paste it to a place that I think is suitable. I do this because sometimes even just creating a scratch note is kind of like an overhead. So I just want to start like if I have an idea that I want to copy paste or type right away, I just want the note to be there already. And I don't want to think about the possible kind of like title of the note or where I want to link the note so I don't forget it's there, stuff like that. So I would write here and then find a place that would be suitable, like something like this, and then I would just go there, and buffer note is still there. I just it's just flushed and ready for next use. And I'm experimenting how well this works and the stuff that might be useful to facilitate this kind of pattern, so that maybe I can do a feature request or implement it myself.
Hey, Mark, question. First,
Okay.
love the buffer note, and I can totally see this as something that can be part of Dendron, just because it's a even easier way to just jot down your thoughts. Do you ever have like multiple thoughts like built up? Like right now, like you were able to put down some notes and move them right away, but do you ever just let it build up? And what is your process of triaging that note once you have maybe like a day's worth of notes or a week's worth of notes, or maybe you never let it get to that point? I'm just curious about the process right now.
Usually, so this is the part where buffer node kind of loses its meaning, because something like that, if I have a lot of notes during the day, I that the purpose of this buffer notes can be completely replaced by daily journals right now. So I'll just open a random daily journal, something that has more than that. So I was going to go over the general way of how I take notes on another section, but I'll just go over it right now. I usually almost just start with a timestamp. So here would be like, I have a snippet that just pastes the time and the date. And then I would have a note that's related to the thought, or if I don't, I would just start my notes, and then maybe this should go to blah, blah, blah. And then I create the note, and then it goes on. So almost everything I take notes here would end up becoming a note within my Cerebrarium. So I keep it here. I don't think I ever went back and triaged it, because something like most of the notes that I take here are meta stuff about the pages I want to develop. So whatever things that need to be moved, I will write it here, but I would also move it into the relevant notes. And I think a buffer is another higher abstraction over the daily journal, because it's like something that I think it's just doesn't fit anywhere, not in my daily journal, not in my any pre-existing journals. I just need a place to write it. I can flush it to other notes or just delete it. It's just, but at least I have it that I don't have to think about where do I put it. That's where I started using buffer notes. And yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you still, I guess, do you use buffer notes like in conjunction with daily journals, or have you switched mostly to just use buffers in the placement of that?
No, I still use both. Sometimes I write stuff in the buffer note and then I just paste it with a timestamp into my daily, because sometimes the notes that I have before is kind of like a clutter, and I just want a clean space that I want to work on this particular idea. I say idea, but I just really, it's just simple stuff in my life right now.
Well, that's where all the best ideas come from. And one more
Of
question on
course.
buffer node, and I will let you continue the presentation. Can you go more in detail with the illustration that you have, especially like the little numbers in the
Oh,
box on the
this.
right? Yeah.
This is a quick scan of my physical journal that I keep. It looks like this. I don't know if it's yeah. So that is for tomorrow, July 31st. So I always write this before the day actually happens. But I was going to talk about how I separate my concerns with other tools like pen and paper, Dendron, and whatnot. So this will be part of the talk in a later section.
Cool. Sounds good. Don't let me hold you up then.
Okay. So buffer nodes are basically deferring my decision of the location of the node to a future time so that I can capture the immediacy of my thoughts. And then we already, sorry about this. So the Zoom UI is kind of obstructing my tabs. So yeah. Yeah, I guess I already did kind of go over what I was going to talk about for daily journals here, because my notes are very sparse like this, because sometimes I just don't work on the daily, I just work on the actual notes. Oh yeah, that's where I thought about buffer notes, by the way. So quickly reiterating, timestamp, and then whatever idea I have, I just write it down without thinking about the structure of how I want to organize this. I like to write naturally, just sequentially until I can sense, kind of intuitively sense a structure in it. And before that, I don't really want, I don't like applying a structure in it. So this is kind of off topic, but the first, trying to organize my knowledge, all I did was create notes. And this was when I first started using Dendron. So I was really, this is a silly thing to do, but I would make a bunch of notes. They're all empty, but I would just dump out what I'm interested in, and I try to make a rigid structure out of all the things I know and am interested about. And after like a month, I would have like 200 notes, started with 0, and they're all empty. I do nothing with it. I just keep on making new notes, and then I realize this is not how you do it. I have to start with a seed and an idea that I can take action, so that whatever that goes into my node, or whatever node I create, actually means something to me. So if you, I hope this shows. So this is the current state of my node, and there's not a lot, because currently I have like 130 nodes, and I think I deleted more than like 60% of my nodes because they were all empty and I didn't have a purpose in actually structuring it that way. And I think that's a good thing. And this is, I think, is a perfect segue to my next thing I want to talk about, which is, no, I wanted to talk about something else first. So let's do that first. Let's see, buffer node. Yeah. So Dendron and Cerebrarium that I use Dendron to build is the source of truth for my notes, but it's not the only tool I use. And I do this because I want to separate what kind of notes I put in Cerebrarium or my other tools. For example, most of the notes about the daily minutiae. Uh, I don't think it has value to go into Cerebrarium. It's either I do it and I acknowledge it that I did it or I didn't do it that day. I just move on. There's no like, I of course there's people who track what they do and use that data to um, extract insights and do other stuff. But that's I don't do that yet. I think like I don't think I have an urge to do that yet. So I don't do that. And mostly these kind of little things that I mean, like this is this is an example. This is I just use this is a pocket size notebook, again about the size. A passport is actually called a passport notes. And if it's in my pocket and there's no excuse for me to not have it all the time, even when I probably don't need uh, to have it on me, for example, like going for a run. Um, I do this because these are the things that I want to have access all the time immediately without even like clicking on an app, selecting a node and trying to figure out what I want to look at. I just have a spread for every day with the same format that has a task and things I need to take care of, and then what's it? Time blocked out so that I have an idea of how much free time I have today, and it constantly reminds me that I don't really have that much time today, and I have to like I don't have time to slack off. So immediacy is the key for me here, and I tried a lot of ways of doing like to-do notes using apps, using other program software, but it always the blocker always for me was that I need internet access or some kind of syncing. And if I didn't have my phone with me, I just can't do it. But a simple pen and paper solution was the way I did it with the immediate tasks. And now, like, if I don't have this before the day ends for the next day, the next day is kind of chaos because I really don't. I rely on this so much that I don't know what to do that day.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mark,
so
a question. So do you make this calendar or this prep every day? So like, do you have one or do you use like a template that you reuse every day?
uh, I draw this and write this every day. I this is another tangent that I won't actually go into, but my handwriting used to be like really like something that you would think it came out of a printer. So I think I'm still am, but I'm really OCD, and at some point in my life, I thought writing perfect, like pixel perfect words would help me like learn better, but that's not the case. And I'm not going to go into this more, but yeah, I like writing with my hand, and it makes me slow down and think about stuff that I want to write down. And without these kind of notes, I just can't function as a normal human being. So slowing down to write this down at the end of the day to shut down and have kind of like a daily closure, so to speak. it's meditative, and I just like it's visually pleasing to me to look at this. So I think that it's emotionally a good thing for me, and also it serves a purpose for me. So I kind of do it as kind of a meditation, stuff like that, manually every day.
Got it. No, it looks really, it looks like a really nice routine. So kudos. And your writing is amazing. Mine
Thank you.
is not. So.
Yeah. So with this kind of pocket notebook, like this is a very I've been doing this for at least like 3 years on the same type of notes for about 3 years. And when I first started, I was even more imperative what I tell myself to do. For example, my to-do app would be like, wake up, um, take your trash bag and pile up all uh, at your door, do the dishes, and then take it out. Stuff like that. Like a very like imperative kind of style of scheduling your day. But uh, yeah, my point is that it tends to be in on like a very imperative, like you have like procedures of what you need to do that day on this note. And for all the notes that I take in Cerebrarium using Dendron, it's more declarative. I have more abstract ideas about what I want to do. And then the notes I take usually aren't um, tasks, it's ideas. And then whatever comes out of that could be tasks, but I usually try to write notes in Dendron in a way that you're having a conversation almost. Like I'm like externalizing my thinking to like another person almost, and I'm talking to Dendron as if I'm talking to a friend about a topic. And I think that helps me think about the ideas that I always had but couldn't organize in my head. It's I think it's a good way to um, pull it out. Okay, so that is, I think, pretty much it about separation of concerns that I wanted to talk about. Um, uh, so the next section is what kind of content that comes into my notes, what stays, and what I expect to make out of that. So all external information that I get from books, articles, general videos, or just word of mouth, they all go into a hierarchy called EXT, and I have some rules here about how I want to organize this. This is all public, by the way. If you go to cerebrarium.garden, this is all published. So I'm not going to go into the rules that I put for myself, but I have all, for example, I've read this book called Deep Work, and I have my reading notes here. I have another book that I'm reading right now, but I don't have notes here. There's probably something about lowering your blood pressure. any information that I don't put input myself, it comes to this hierarchy, so that whenever I want to reference it in other places, I have a place that I know where it is. And I've seen people just have a big hierarchy that has all their notes, their reading notes, their what they call fleeting notes in Zettelkasten, their permanent notes that have their own ideas all mixed up. But I thought it would be nice to have some kind of separation. I haven't really seen a very compelling reason that you should do it like this, but this is something I'm experimenting right now. That having one hierarchy and a pretty flat one that just goes right into the source and then my notes. And then these are used to write my journals. If I go to backlinks, yeah, there are some things that I link here. I did some research about Dash, which is how you should eat if you have hypertension, stuff like that. So usually I have I taken some information, process it in my own ways and then make notes. And then I take that and put my own thoughts, probably first in my daily journal. And then if I think it's worth putting it into my other permanent notes, I move it there. And then, like you mentioned before, I would sometimes have notes that are empty. It's because I thought I would be working on those notes, but I didn't, and I forgot about it. It's not much overhead to have it there all the time, keeping it empty, but I always make it a case to go and delete it. And what I normally do is I use Dendron random note, and I just keep on doing this until I find an empty note. But this node is not actually empty because it has other children. So I go on, keep doing that until I find a random node that's empty. And then I decide, do I want to work on it today? If not, I'm going to delete it. So that's how I tend to kind of prune my digital garden.
Hey, Mark.
And
just a question on my side. This is great. I'm just curious. I noticed that, so right now, I guess for people who aren't using Dendron, Dendron has an option to automatically take your front matter and put it as the H1 title in the preview. And so I've noticed as you've been going through some of your notes you've been relying on the front matter title, but some of them you've been putting an H1 title, like the current one. So like you see Arch show up twice. Do you have like a preference or like a way that you like decide to put an H1 title in a note versus just using the title field? Or just, what is your favorite layout for that?
I started out just using H1 titles. That's why some of the notes I have do have H1 titles, some don't. It's just that I had it like that, but at some point I got into a habit of just using the front matter title. So I guess I don't really have preference, but right now I'm just any new note that I make, I use the front matter title. So this is a pretty old node. You can see it's made last year and never touched again after February.
Got it. And I guess this is just like as a plug for people that are not aware, because it's very hard to discover. We have a doctor command if you're in the situation to change all H1 titles of all nodes to the front matter title instead.
Yes, that is true. And I need to do that. I guess I'm still undecided. That's why I'm not, I'm not running that command. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, didn't mean to, well, did interrupt, but please continue.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat at all. Sorry about that.
Yeah, there hasn't been, it's been a side conversation, so we're okay. I'll let you know if there's any questions.
Yeah, that would be great. So where was I? Yeah. So that's how I prune my nodes. What was I going to talk about again? So what's my end game with these? So I had a really, I still have a really bad problem of having very big ideas and never executing. I have a lot of hobbies, a lot of interests, and I look into a lot of information. I never make use of that information, and I never do anything about it. So that was the thing I wanted to fix this year. And with perfect timing, I found out about digital gardening. And it was something that could help me do that. So I made it a point that all the notes at the end makes me do something. And then when I do that, I have a place to record what I did. And it kind of like a positive feedback loop of keep on doing stuff as I see my digital garden grow, as my knowledge base grow, and just push me to not being lazy, just keep on doing, finding things that you thought about but never did. So my point here is that all notes I want at the end, if it's not something that I want to reference later, kind of like a cheat sheet, it's just something that can output an actionable next step. That is what I aim to make my notes do for me. Does that make that was a lot of works, but yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the notes that you have, they're not just sitting around, that they're actionable.
Yeah. So I don't, that's why I kind of didn't want to just make a to-do list and just have inboxes. I do have an inbox, but like just inboxes and then files that I want, that I just file in random information that I found and never look into. So that's kind of like my explicit goal, explicit kind of goal I set for myself for using Dendron and building up my digital garden. Yeah, that's what goes in, what stays, what comes out of Cerebrarium. And another thing I wanted to talk about is there are a lot of popular PKM methods out there, and all of them are great. The people who started that idea, they're all like it's brilliant. All of them are brilliant. That's why a lot of people use it. And that's why I've been drawn into everything, like each and every method that I tried. But they all kind of failed. Like, well, I guess I failed on, I failed to embrace every one of them, and I thought about this a lot, and it was just that like nobody thinks the same. These are methods that are made tailored for whoever created that. And there might be people uh, that think similar to them and close to them, but at the end of the day, everyone thinks differently, and all the pipelines are different for people. So what I started doing is look at all the failed attempts of employing these methods and just taking out the good stuff. Um, for example, para. Um, uh, I thought it would work really well because it was something simple, uh, but I didn't want to organize every aspect of my life in my node in Dendron at least. Um, and the separation of projects areas, was it resources and then archives. Um, the areas part kind of felt a bit forced to me. It just kind of looked very tightly coupled with projects and resources. Um, so I didn't really want to follow that to the T, but I decided that the spirit of para of having these kind of different level of abstractions of different areas of your life was meaningful. So I took that, and I hope it shows in my digital garden when you take time and take a look into it. Zettelkasten, uh, if I were a researcher or was still in academia, I think I would have gone full Zettelkasten because I think it's a really good way to organize information that you absorb and then output something of your own writing. Um, really great, and you can see in my EXT hierarchy that I pretty much follow what the Zettelkasten method suggests you to do with all your reading notes. I don't really take fleeting notes separately. I just bunch it all up into reading notes, and then an important thing that I have to mention is that writing is not my end goal, right? Writing is just a side effect of what I really want to do, which is push my actions uh, out of my head and actually make me do that and then record that along the way. So writing is a side effect of all that. So I couldn't follow Zettelkasten what it suggests to a T because then I would be focusing on something that I'm not aiming to focus. So I just adopt parts of what it suggests, like reading notes, taking notes, processing the information in your own head and writing it with your own words, stuff like that. Yeah. Bullet journal, like I introduced with my pen and paper stuff for my dailies. It's good for immediate stuff that are very procedural imperative, but I couldn't just like there is a physical kind of like wall you hit if you try to organize your knowledge in an analog method. At least is what I'm feeling. It just gets too unwieldy because like like at least you need some not a tiny notebook like this. You at least like need like a letter size notebook or something like that, and then you need multiple of them, and you know yeah. The physical limitation wasn't something that I wanted to take uh to go through. Yeah. So, but writing with my hand was something that I really liked. And then it was immediate. I didn't need my phone or my computer. So what I did is um, made my, I gave myself a place that I can write down things that I care about tomorrow and not be too precious about. So that's a that's the way I adopted bullet journals. Um, what's another one? Mm, There's a lot of things that I read and then kind of just like uh, took the spirit of it and then tried to come up with my own kind of pipeline and into what would make sense to me essentially. But like I said earlier, most of the time I don't try to make structure before I can see a pattern intuitively. So it's an ongoing process of checking out new stuff, trying it out, failing, and then just taking the spirit and trying to make it come naturally to me. Okay, I think that's pretty much all methods that I can think about that I kind of took parts to come to this point right now.
Yeah, and I think for people who might not be as familiar with different note-taking techniques, we'll be sure to also all the terms that Mark mentioned, like para and Zettelkasten and fleeting notes, we'll have a glossary that comes out when we also publish the talk.
Yes, there would be a PKM vault that goes into the details of how and what they suggest you do with your knowledge.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So yeah, Dendron we have a published reference guide for what all the different PKM techniques do and some ways of implementing them. So
okay.
I guess one more thing, I know we talked about it, but I don't think the listeners or the people tuning in might know, is for your digital garden, why did you decide to name it Cerebrarium and the story behind that name?
It's I have a tendency to name things, and it's part of my grandiose kind of like like staying inside my head and like brewing up big ideas. So I started using it, and then this is the like it's very funny because at the time I started getting into like learning about digital gardens, I was actually getting into gardening. I mean, like growing plants. So I wanted something with a plant theme because you know, like I want to buy a domain domain garden garden domain. You know, so I needed a name, I needed a logo, and it has to be plant kind of stuff so that I can have an excuse to buy a .garden domain. Uh, and I thought about it, and something about my knowledge, my brain, uh, cerebral stuff like that, and then okay, garden. You have terrariums, so it's just it's just a combination of the two or cerebral terrarium stuff like that. Yeah, and then I made a go on this. Where is it? This one. I Does it get bigger? I don't think so. But this is the logo. So it's like a terrarium. It's open on the bottom, and it has all the brainy kind of detail, but it's a plant. So yeah, I wanted to do that when I first started building my digital garden. So that's how I got the name.
It's awesome. And I love the logo that you have. And um, I might call upon you to do future Dendron designs. So
That would be great. Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Well, at this point, I think we are a little over, so I'm going to stop the recording. But thank you very much, Mark, for the talk. And I think we all have a lot to take away from this.